Hello, BookTube. I'm here to spotlight a series of science fiction books. I was looking for a specific book, and as usual, I pull out other stuff, and I thought I'd grab these all together. I can find all but two of them that I have, and I'll get to those. I'll show a JPEG picture, and then there's the most recent release that I don't have by it, and I think there's 17 now? 17-ish titles that have been put out, but I'll preface as to say, well, they're called the Golden Age Masterworks by Gollancz. Now, they are sort of preceded by another series that most people are aware of, the SF Masterworks. This is the second iteration of it, but it's got the distinctive, yellow to white, and on the back as well. It's almost as if it's been sunned. But it hasn't. And I think they're up. They started in 1999, and then I'm not sure when they put the new ones out. Like they revamped the series, and they chucked a few titles and added tons more. I think over 100 titles now. Now it encompasses all sort of eras of science fiction. There are things in it, like there's gaps in it, but for the most part, every title that they've put out and are putting out are representative. It'll be to everybody's taste. Somebody may not like this author or this book, but I think they'd be hard pressed to say that it's not worth being in there because of the influence that author or that specific book had or has. As the case may be. But anyway, for 20-year anniversary in 2019, they started a new series called the Science Fiction Masterworks. They play a little free and loose with the dates, but it's definitely, we'll look at the dates in here, but I think they go past sort of 1950 or 51 in the date, but I don't think they go past 1960. But we'll see. And I'm not doing them in any other order than grouping together the authors that they have together. And the first one is a series of books, the Lensman series by E. Doc Smith. Now, they've got the four main ones, but they don't have the prequels, Triplanetary and First Lensman. I'm hoping they will actually do those because I'd like to read them in this format. Otherwise, I'd have to pick up some old copies of Triplanetary and First Lensman. But they were originally all published by a publisher called Fantasy Press that started in 1946-ish. I think it's post Second World War and lasted to the mid-50s. And then there was a few titles that came out after because there were still sort of unbound copies of books that have yet to be published. They were sort of one of the three biggies of the time that were specialist publishers. Gnome Press and Shasta Press were the biggies. Now, Fantasy did a really neat thing that they would, for collectors, they would do pre-publication, special editions, and signed editions. But I think just the plethora of publishing during the 50s of paperbacks and everything just sort of put a demise to these specialist publishers. Gnome Press had its own problems with the Martin Greenberg that sort of created. That's not Martin H. Greenberg, the editor. It's a different one. He just was not a good accountant in accounting of things. Isaac Asimov talked so much about him not getting paid for stuff and not knowing how many copies sold and so forth. Anyway, I'm getting off topic there. So Masterworks. And this is the Lensman series by E. Doc Smith. And there's a little bio on the back of it, and I'll sort of talk about the books as well. Not in huge depth, but E. Doc Smith was born in 1890 and died in 1965. And the little bio here says, Edward Elmer Smith was born in Wisconsin in 1890. Great place for an author. There's another great author from there, too. Yes. he spent his working life as a food engineer. Smith is best known for the Skylark and Lensman series of novels, which are arguably the earliest examples of space opera. Although he won no major SF awards, Smith was guest of honor at the Second World Science Fiction Convention in Chicago in 1940. He died in 1965. Now, the Lensman series was up for Hugo for the best science fiction series of all time. Foundation won, but this was a close runner-up. Arguably, Foundation is better. They're both sort of can be described as space operas, but E. Doc Smith is sort of in the original tradition of space operas, where you got super scientists. Well, I just read here. It says, the space pirates of Boscain raided at will, menacing the whole structure of interstellar civilization. Masterminded by a super scientist, their conquering fleets outgun even the mighty space cruisers of the Galactic Patrol. And that's what it is. It's pure fun, and spaceships with laser weapons that can just slice ships in half, and planets. And you see some of this that has been influenced in Babylon 5 with their space battles, especially the Vorlon. But yeah, they're very fun to read, and they were going to make a series of this. I think it was Ron Howard production company bought a number of years ago, mid-teens, bought the rights to this and got J. Michael Straczynski to do the screenplay for this, but they decided, or somebody decided, that it was going to be way too costly to do, and the project was dropped and the rights reverted back to the estate. So I guess it's not going to happen by the sounds of it. This was originally serialized. Most of these were serialized, but it was put out in 1950 by Shasta Press in book form. And this is 2019, not 1919, 2019 Gollancz publication. It has an introduction by M.R. Carey. He's a British science fiction writer of comics. Sandman he's done, and I'm not that familiar with him, but I know he's quite prolific in that way. Next one is, and this is the sort of the second of the main stories, or the fourth book in the Lensman series, if you want to call it that, Grey Lensman. And just fabulous title, cover art. And introduction again by M.R. Carey. And and this is Somewhere Among the Galaxies was the stronghold of Boscain, a network of brilliant interplanetary criminals whose mania for conquest threatened the future of all known civilization. But where? They're just fun, and this was serialized as well, but book form in 1951 and 2019 as well. And they mentioned the Skylark series, which is very similar, but they were started in the late 20s, and it's sort of damsels in distress, and super scientists and super criminals, and traveling vast distances in space and so on. Just, it's fabulous stuff, but it's not Shakespeare, let's put it that way. Then the second stage Lensman, and another great cover. And this one is Kim Kinnison, number one man of his time, and had faced challenges before, but rarely one as daunting as this. To him fell the perilous task of infiltrating the inner circle of Boscain, stronghold of galactic civilization's most deadly foe. And it's just, again, an introduction by M.R. Carey, 2019 publication by Gollancz, and originally, 1939, serialization in 1951, Fantasy Press. And then we got Children of the Lens, again, introduction by M.R. Carey. And just, I do like these covers. I like the whole design. yellow and the black. They're very stark. I really, really like this. And again, 2019, and originally 47 to 48 serialized, and then 1954 Fantasy Press for that. So that's the fourth, well, actually sixth volume. And I'm hoping they will, as I say, do the other one. I'll read just back here. It was beginning to look as though no one could prevent the annihilation of the civilized universe. For a weird intelligence was directing the destruction of all civilization from the icy depths of outer space. And I want to do a reread of these, and I'm hoping they will come out with the first two Triplanetary and first Lensman, or I'll have to, try to get either e-copies or, kind of rough. No, that's going to fall down, so I'm going to move these over to here, where maybe they'll fall down. Just temporary piles are not good. So I'm hoping to read these through at some point next year, I'm sure. But I'm giving them a little time to come out with new ones. So we've come across Murray Leinster previously in my magazine sort of series. So this one is Sideways in Time. Is this I think this is a fix-up novel, but it may not be. It's got an introduction by, or a forward. No, it doesn't have an introduction. It doesn't say anything. A lot of these have introductions or afterwards. This is 2020, and originally 1934, and then first spirited Astounding Stories as The Runaway Skyscraper, Argosy, and so it is a fix-up novel. Yeah, it is a fix-up novel. I was right. Murray Leinster. From mystery and adventure stories in the earliest years to science fiction in his later years, William Fitzgerald Jenkins, writing under the pen name Murray Leinster, worked steadily and at a highly professional level of craftsmanship, longer than most writers of the generation. He won a Hugo Award in 1956 for his novella Exploration Team, and in 1995 the Sideways Awards for the alternate history took its name from this classic story. Sideways in Time was his last original work, appeared in 1967. So they're from the earlier period, Golden Age, but book form, it seems. I thought it was showing a different date on the copyright page. It says 1962, but yeah. So, but 1967 by the looks of it in book and full book form, but 30s and 40s and so forth in the magazines. So and it says here, from apocalyptic cataclysms and alternate realities to the adventures of Earth's first starship and beyond, this collection contains 10 selected short stories from the master of pulp, Murray Leinster, pen name of William Fitzgerald Jenkins. So it's actually a short story. I think it's done as a fix-up. I think they're all related, but it's a long time since I've read it. Moving on, we got Harry Harrison, The Death World Omnibus. This is quite neat. Again, fabulous covers in the spine. Harry Harrison, born Henry Maxwell Dempsey. Harry Harrison was the author of a number of much-loved series, including The Stainless Steel Rat, we'll see that in a second, Bill the Galactic Hero, and the Death World trilogy. He was known as a passionate advocate of Esperanto and most popular of the constructed international languages, which appears in many of his novels. He was perhaps best known for the seminal novel of Overpopulation, Make Room, which was adapted into the cult film Soylent Green. I did a book to film about that, if you want to look in my book to film playlist. And I'll just read the first paragraph here. What it's about. Jason Gollancz, a professional gambler who uses his somewhat erratic psionic abilities to tip the odds in his favor, finds excitement and intrigue as he investigates Purus, a strange place where all the beasts, plants, and natural elements are out to destroy man. Survival requires one to be superbly trained, aimed, and ready to kill hordes of clever, supremely deadly predators. So this is the whole trilogy, and this was published as the Masterworks in 2019, and originally 1960, 64, and 68. So yeah, so they're playing a bit fast and loose with the Golden Age theme. So I felt like there's a crease in the cover here, and I think there is. So you can't see it, but it's weird. You can feel a bit of a crease. Ooh, it actually looks like it's scored throughout. Oh, okay, that's not good, but yeah, it's scored. Somebody rubbed something across it. We got Harry Harrison again with the stainless steel rat. Again, fabulous cover. And this was published by Golden Age Masterworks, 2019, originally 1961. And it's Meet Interstellar Common... let me start that again. Meet Interstellar Conman James Bolivar, Slippery Jim DeGriz, better known to the galaxy at large as the Stainless Steel Rat. Charming, quick-witted, physically fit, a master of disguise, a skilled liar, an accomplished bank robber, and exceptionally talented at breaking and entering. Slippery Jim is everything a master thief should be. He can con humans, aliens, and any number of robots time after time. Jim is so slippery, in fact, that all the intergalactic cops can do is make him one of their own. And there was actually Harry Harrison did in the Foundation Friends. He did a robot novel with Susan possibly Susan Calvin's, I think, descendant or granddaughter. But was it Powell or was it Donovan? It was either Powell or Donovan. I can't remember now. It wasn't that good, but anyway. And then we've got a bunch of C.L. Moore books that they've published. Great, the Jarrell of Jory, really interesting collection. This is more a fix-up, I suppose you could say. 2019 for the Gollancz, and originally 34, 34, 35, and 36, and 37, and 39 publications. And C.L. Moore, Catherine Lucille Moore, was born in Indianapolis in 1911. Prolonged illness when young meant she spent much of her time as a child reading the fantastic tales of the day, a background which spurred her on to become a writer of science fiction and fantasy herself. Moore was one of the first women to use to rise prominence in the male-dominated world of early SF, and paved the way for others to follow in her footsteps. Moore ceased to write fiction after her husband's death in 1958, concentrating instead on writing for television. She died in April 1987 after a long battle with Alzheimer's disease. They say she was one of the first prominence. Well, maybe the biggest, I guess, yeah. But there were other female writers, but they're sort of forgotten. C.L. Moore is still remembered, rightly so. And this one here, the Jarrell of Jory, with her red hair flowing, her yellow eyes glinting like embers, and her face streaked with blood, Jarrell is strong, fearless, and driven by honor. A fierce, proud, and relentless commander of warriors, standing tall above her enemies and simmering with rage. Jarrell bids farewell to the world of treacherous men and walks through a forbidden door into hell itself in pursuit of freedom, justice, and revenge. Again, they're fun stories. And then we got Northwest of Earth by C.L. Moore again. Again, these great covers in the spine. This is 2019 again. Originally 1954. Among the best written and most emotionally complex stories of the pulp era. That's debatable, but yeah. The tales of intergalactic bootlegger Northwest Smith still resonate strongly more than 75 years after their first publication. From the crumbling temples of forgotten gods on Venus to the seedy pleasure halls of old Mars, these 13 stories blaze a trail through an underbelly of the solar system. A quick drawing smuggler of the spaceways who would become the model for countless science fiction heroes. Northwest Smith is SF's original outlaw. And we got C.L. Moore again, Judgment at Night. And let's see here. 2019 again, originally 1952. Released in 1952, Judgment Night collects 5 Moore's novellas from the pages of editor John W. Campbell Jr.'s Astounding Science Fiction magazine. Judgment Night balances a lush rendering of a future galactic empire and a sober meditation on the nature of power and its inevitable loss. The Code pays homage to classic Faustian modern theories and Lovecraftian dread. Promised Land and Heir Apparent both document the grim twisting that mankind must undergo in order to spread into the solar system. And Paradise Street shows a futuristic take on the old Western conflict between lone hunter and wilderness taming settlers. Chosen by the author herself as the best of her longer form writing, these stories show a crafted wordsmith working at the height of her talents. Yeah, these are good stories, and I forgot about that. I could have done Paradise Street as Western. For Western Month, and that would have been kind of a neat thing. Well, there's always next year, isn't there, if I remember. Another C.L. Moore, Doomsday Morning. And 2019 again, 1957. Comos, the communications network / police force, has spread its web of power all across an American paralyzed by the after effects of limited nuclear war. But in California, resistance is building against the dictatorship of Comos. And Andrew Raleigh, president for life, for now Raleigh is dying and the powers of Comos are fading. It's the perfect time for the Californian revolutionaries to activate the secret weapon that alone can destroy America's totalitarian system and reestablish democracy. Yet Comos, too, has powers at its disposal. Chief among them, Howard Rohan, a washed-up actor, until Comos offers him a second chance. Rohan will head a troupe of players touring the heart of rebel territory. Yeah, this is... if I ever get to do some sort of classic apocalyptic ones, this will be on the list to read if I ever get some of those together. It'll be very selective if I do. Arthur C. Clarke, there's a few of these. Earthlight. Arthur C. Clarke, born in Somerset in 1917, Arthur C. Clarke wrote over 60 books, among which are the science fiction classic 2001: A Space Odyssey, Childhood's End, The City and the Stars, and Rendezvous with Rama. He has won all the major prestigious science fiction trophies, and shared an Oscar nomination with Stanley Kubrick for the screenplay of the film 2001. He was knighted in 1998. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. He died in 2008 at his home in Sri Lanka. And this one, Earthlight, was released 2019 by these guys, and 1955. Short, but it's a good one if I remember. 200 years after the first landing on the moon, there are permanent populations established on the moon, Venus, and Mars. Outer space inhabitants have formed a new political entity, the Federation, and between the Federation and Earth, a growing rivalry has developed. 2 centuries from now, there may be those who do not owe intelligence. Do not owe intelligence. Let's get my teeth in correctly and my tongue turned around so I can speak. 2 centuries from now, there may be those who do not owe allegiance to any nation on Earth or even to Earth itself. Humanity stands upon the moon and the planets, now divided by vast stretches of the solar system, but once again torn apart by jealousy and fear. The strange, awe-inspiring surface of the moon will soon be host to the most fantastic and exciting contest of arms. Yeah. Against the Fall of Night. Introduction by Stephen Baxter, who is a science fiction writer as well in his own right. Thin volume. 2019, yep. And originally 1953. In the year 10 billion AD. Just a few days from now. Despair is the last city. Yeah, despair is the last city on Earth. Ageless and unchanging, the inhabitants see no reason to be curious about the outside world. But one child, Alvin, only 17 and the last person to be born in despair, finds that he is increasingly drawn to what lies outside the city walls. Even though he knows the invaders who devastated the world may still be out there. An early version of one of Clarke's most successful books, The City in the Stars, this short novel is a perfect example of Clarke's powers as a writer. And there's one that I can't find that I still have. It's actually his first book, so I don't have it to read the back. Is The Sands of Mars. I vaguely remember this. I remember this. It's about a science fiction author at the time on a spaceship going to Mars, and I think he's researching another book or something. I remember it being quite interesting, and it's his first actual novel, I should say. And then we'll show another one that I can't find is The Outward Urge by John Wyndham. It's again, I think it's another fix-up novel, but it's kind of weird because it's a fix-up novel because John Wyndham used many pseudonyms. What was his name? John Wyndham Benyon Harris or Parks Harris or something like that. He's got this long name, and he used various John Benyon, Benyon Harris, John Wyndham, and various combinations of those. And these stories are made up of the stories that he wrote under these different names. But they're all, I think, it's the outward urge of going into the solar system and populating the other planets or colonizing some of the other planets. And there's stories over a period of time. There's gaps between them, and just a story of different kind of colonization. It's really good. Well, John Wyndham stuff is good anyway, regardless of his pseudonym or variation he was doing. So there's Henry Kuttner, I always say Kuttner. Yeah, Kuttner. Fury. Henry Kuttner was born in Los Angeles in 1950. As a young man, he worked for the literary agency of his uncle before selling his first story in early 1936. In 1940, Kuttner married fellow writer C.L. Moore, which we've seen. During the Second World War, they were regular contributors to John W. Campbell's Astounding Science Fiction and collaborated for most of the 1940s and 1950s, published primarily under the pseudonyms Louis Pageant and Lawrence O'Donnell. He died of a heart attack in 1958. And this one, Fury, was published by Gollancz 2019, originally 1954. The Earth is long dead, blasted apart, and the human survivors who settled on Venus live in a huge citadels beneath the Venusian seas in an atrophying, atrophying class-ridden society ruled by the Immortals, genetic mutants who live 1,000 years or more. Sam Reed was born an immortal, born to rule those with a normal lifespan, but his deranged father had him mutilated as a baby so that he wouldn't know of his heritage. And Sam grew up on the wrong side of the tracks and the law, thinking of the immortals as his enemies. When he reaches the age of 80, understood what had happened to him and went looking for revenge and changed his decaying world forever. I remember it being pretty good. Not the best of writing for the back here, though, that's for sure. Anyway, so that's most of them. There's a new one that's come out, I think, earlier this year, and it's Ed Grice Burroughs' Stories of Mars. Great cover, isn't it? I haven't got that one yet. So if you want to help me complete this collection, that is on my wish list on Amazon, and you can find the link down in the description. So commercial over for that part. But yeah, so this has the first three Barsoom novels: Princess of Mars, The Gods of Mars, and Warlords of Mars. Warlords, I think it is, of Mars. And this was just out this year, earlier, I think this year, 2022. So yeah, so this is the Gollancz Golden Age Masterworks, and I hope they continue and reprint a lot of great stuff. I hope it's long lived, but it seems like they started great guns, like I think 5 or 6 in January 2019, and at other times, but it's slowed down very much so in the past 2 years. I think only the Outward Urge and recently the Ed Grice Burroughs Sands of Mars, is it? Sorry. Getting mixed up with the Arthur C. Clarke Stories of Mars. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up with the Arthur C. Clarke Sands of Mars. So yeah, so there's only, I think, 2 in 2 years. So if they just start doing 1 a year, which is easy enough to keep up with, but it's going to take a long time to get to some really great stuff. And I really hope they do the first prequels to the Lensman series so I can read those. But in either case, at some time next year, I'm going to reread the Lensman series and see if I can maybe get the Skylark series as well on book form at some point. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, yeah, I'm really glad that they're doing something like this. I just want more. Anyway, take care, BookTube. I'll see you next time.